Um, I kind of wanted to continue on with my rant on Star Wars and the Star Wars movies and the prequels, because like I said, I went to see Star Wars Episode 3 again in theaters. This was the first time I actually saw it in theaters, because previously the only way I had seen it is either on TV or on Blu-ray. And it was even better than I remembered. Of course, once again, the fair criticism of the dialogue kind of sounding flat is still there, because George Lucas, that guy, I mean, I think everyone's seen that clip of Harrison Ford going, "George, you try and read this," when he was presented with dialogue that George had written, because, you know, his dialogue is infamously kind of, it feels like it belongs in a play, you know? "Anakin, you're breaking my heart." Nobody says that shit, come on. But anyway, they did. You can definitely see that, but it doesn't make it a bad film. And despite all those flaws, it's a fucking banger. It's maybe, if not the best, then at least one of the best. I unironically would say this is on a shared number one spot with Episode 6. I know a lot of people prefer Episode 5, but who cares? It's my opinion. Fuck you. It was good. And I smiled in a couple of spots. It's kind of hard to watch because the atmosphere at the beginning of the movie was so tense, because I'd never seen it in theaters, and now it's suddenly, on the big screen. The atmosphere was out of this world, but just kind of sometimes got interrupted by the fact that I recognized some prequel meme from the community. I used to be a bigger Star Wars fan back in 5 years ago. That's when I could probably name off a couple of glup shittos as well, like the fucking Max Rebo band and Coleman Trevor and all these other Ben Quaternaris, the characters you don't even give a shit about, you don't even know who they are. I can name those guys, the background characters. But like I said, I was a bigger Star Wars fan back then, so I scrolled a lot of Star Wars memes online, and I came across a lot of prequel memes. And it was kind of hard to not smile when Anakin killed children, because it's like, it's been memed so much. The part where Anakin just switches on his lightsaber when he sees the younglings. And it's supposed to be a serious moment, but you just can't help but smile at it. The part where Sidious recites the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise, which, actually, by the way, did you know Darth Plagueis was apparently still alive during the events of Episode 1, which is insane, because I did not know that, and holy fucking shit, that blew my mind, because I just learned that like a week ago, or 2 weeks ago, or something like that. That shit is wild. I did not know that. But anyway, what was I talking about? The prequels and my theater experience. My thought process got interrupted. Here's a picture of the popcorn bucket. I actually heard a guy giggle behind me every time one of those meme moments came up, like the part where Obi-Wan says "another happy landing." I heard him, laugh a little. So, it was fun having other prequel fans there. Also, I heard these kids behind me say it's the chicken jockey guy when an advertisement featuring Jason Momoa was on screen before the movie started. It's the chicken jockey guy. It's sure, yeah, fine, whatever, it's the chicken jockey guy. Anyway, it's kind of cool, I guess, to see kids go and see the movie, because, again, I think, I'm not even sure if those kids, because they look young, I'm not even sure if they watched the sequel trilogy in theaters. So this must have been the first movie, or first Star Wars movie that they watched in theaters. And that is a perfect segue to the sequel trilogy. Now this game that I'm playing right here, Battlefront 2015, is kind of the reboot of the Battlefront series, but also it came around the same time as the sequel trilogy started. And my honest opinion on the sequel trilogy is that I kind of like to pretend they don't exist. Like, they'd be in the same category as the holiday specials. And very specifically because of the last movie. These were the first Star Wars movies that I could see in theaters. And I remember that the hype around Episode 7 coming out was insane. I would imagine it's just about as big as it was around the release of, or actually, well, maybe not as big as Phantom Menace, but almost as big, because that show was insane. And I remember the hype was there, because this was the first Disney movie, I guess, and people were hyped because George Lucas, like, people hadn't really been that, didn't really like the way that George Lucas wrote the prequels. Of course, I mean, there's nothing I can do about the fact that sequels are canon, but, you know, I'm not that petty to go out and preach to others how they shouldn't like them. I feel like they might have a similar cult following in 20 years as the prequels did. So, could be cool. Maybe somebody will give them the love they deserve, but I feel like Episode 9 specifically really just fucked things up. So, Episode 7 was kind of predictable. It was the same as Episode 4 had been, or similar at least, with the hero's journey and all. Until to this day, I feel like it was a perfectly fine Star Wars film. It felt like Star Wars, and it, you know, didn't break the lore too much. Then Episode 8 came out, and since they had switched directors and the writing staff was probably different as well, they completely pissed on whatever J.J. Abrams was making, and they killed Snoke. But I feel like Rian Johnson had the idea that he was at least going to try and make something different, because Episode 7 had been viewed as a bit too safe, I'd say. That's one of the reasons why people don't like it. It's just too familiar. But I feel like if, you know, Episode 8 would have probably been forgiven if Episode 9 had even followed in the tracks of Episode 8, which was already divisive. Then Episode 9 came out and boom, J.J. Abrams is back, but he doesn't know what to do with this thing because he probably had another idea with Snoke and all. So he makes Episode 9, and then he decides, how do we unfuck the situation that Episode 8 created by fucking the whole situation even more. And then they made Episode 9, which at the time when I saw it in theaters, I was kind of hyped because, you know, it's the end of the saga. But in hindsight, it was kind of ass. And the way they explained Palpatine coming back being just, well, somehow he returned. Apparently it was like cloning or something. maybe, or maybe not. I'm not exactly quite sure. I know that Snoke was cloned, because you could see the Snoke clones in the background of that movie, but plus there was no like big build up to it over the course of all the movies. It was just not just that, but the fact that there's no like message behind it. Prequels tell the story of corruption and, you know, how war and politics, they change people, and people change them, and how some people take advantage of them, and how fragile something like democracy is. And then episode 4 is a story, or not episode 4, the original trilogy is a story of resistance and hope, and seeing the good in people. And then then you ask yourself, what is the sequel trilogy about? And you're like, family, identity, I guess. I mean, you can say that Rey has some issues with that. That's basically by the way, that's like, trying to think about it, that's probably the only sort of teaching that I can, or the message behind Star Wars sequel trilogy. That's pretty much all that I can think about that set of movies, is Rey's arc of discovering her identity, I guess. But since it wasn't planned by anyone from the beginning to end, like, the directors just kind of made Star Wars films, not that they had any plans for an overarching plot. It just kind of feels like there's nothing more to it than Rey's story. I feel like Rian Johnson's idea was that they'd try and have Kylo Ren be the villain of the final episode, and then J.J. Abrams just brought back Palpatine, because, I mean, whatever, nostalgia bait, I guess. But I've heard good things about the shows, though. They had The Mandalorian, which people liked at least the first couple of seasons, until it turned into another Marvel-type situation where it's the cinematic universe. I mean, I don't get that shit. I mean, I know why they do it, but I just... why? Oh, look, I can't wait to see my favorite Glup Shido again. Let's pay Disney to make shows that rely totally just completely on references to other pieces of the same franchise or the same media.
Okay, I kind of have to add my quick afterthoughts on this. I went to see Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness with my mom because she liked the first movie and I liked it too. But I hadn't been following MCU past Endgame, and suddenly you're supposed to know why Wanda is the bad guy once again, and my mom had no clue what was going on, and neither had I. So at the point where, like, neither of us has any idea what's going on, you kind of start to question, is this really necessary? Do I really have to watch fucking WandaVision to get this movie? And I don't want that same shit to happen to something like Star Wars.
But I've heard some good things about Andor as well, so I've got high hopes in the TV series, but not really with the movies. That's really all I had to say about Star Wars. It was cool seeing episode 3 again, and that's about it.